Woo. What's up, guys? Sorry, I look like an animal. My hair is all disheveled. Mel's in the bathroom. Yep, I am here. HS, what's up, dude? What's going on, man? Glad you made it. We're here 5 minutes early. Make sure everything's working. Make sure that you guys can hear me and see me. My ugly mug right here. Good to see you, man. Alaska, if I remember correctly. Alaska. I think that's where you said you were from. Was watching some news. I'm big into like I watch a lot of like foreign news, right? Because American fucking news is boring. All they talk about is goddamn politics in the States, and that's fucking it. I want to know about the world, what's happening in the fucking world. Anyway, I watch a DW news. It's a German. It's weird. It's an English language German public like PBS. Anyway, but they were doing it. They were doing kind of like a thing about all the Russian pundits talking about the war, and this one guy's like, "We'll just fucking nuke Alaska and just take over Alaska, those sons of bitches. It was ours anyway, and it was bought illegally by the United States or some just fucking bull, just woo, way out there, dude, fucking way out there." And I'm just sitting there like, my God, it's like the Chinese. It's like anything that what is it like during the height of the Chinese Empire? Like the Han or the Han Empire, or whatever it is. That's all China now. Everything has to be, everything that was then has to be now because some ancient map. So now the Russians are like, well, Ukraine isn't really its own country. And, the dissolving of the Soviet Union was illegal and all that shit belongs to, I'm just like, what the fuck? Now they're saying like some dumbass is like, Alaska's still part of Russia. We need to take it back. Crazy shit. Ashley, what's up, girl? Ashley from Gamers with Coffee is on board. Good to see you. Haven't had a chance to hang out with you guys. I got a new job and I've been working my ass off and I haven't been able to get over there. But you guys are doing some gaming. What'd you guys play this week? You played some sort of like, was it like a Battletech or a Robotech or some shit? Maybe that was the week before. I'm not sure. Anybody get any game? So, HS, did you get any gaming in this last week? Anything of note? Just check. Again, we'll jump in about a minute proper and start conversating. Where is that? Tuesday, Wednesday. Let me find this shit. I had notes on here, but they have disappeared. That's all right. We play it off the cuff here at Weird War. No, seasonal employee. It's tour. Oh shit, tourist season. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, I get you. I mean, I'm not sure where you're in Alaska, but man, I guess when the winter hits, well, hell, you guys are used to fucking minus a billion degrees up there, and you guys just walk around, go swimming with the polar bears and shit. But no, I can see if you guys get iced in, man, wargaming is like the perfect game. And even electricity gets, you just throw in some logs on the fire, kind of push the table closer to the fireplace and roll some dice, dude. That's the way to go. And then plus, hell, you guys have like what, like a couple months night depending on where you're at. Shit. Hey, Adam, what's up, man? Adam here from Wargaming China. Awesome site for the conflict between the Japanese and the Chinese from 1932 to 1945. Or do you go all the way through the? I don't think you go through the Chinese Revolution. I think you stop at 45. But that might be a way to keep going, man. Do the Chinese Civil War. Was that 49? They stopped the KMT retreated to Taiwan in 49 or 48. I can't remember. I know it wasn't 50. It was in the late 40s sometime. Played with some. So Ashley's saying she played with some happy little dinosaurs. Bo, what's up, dude? Just watched your video, man. I have to admit, dude, I have to be totally forthright here. I have sponsors that give me kick-ass weird World War II shit, and I fucking love it, and I push it because it's fucking cool. But yeah, I'm one of them, dude. Don't hate me. Don't hate me. We can still be pals. No, but yeah, I know you got your I know you got a class, man. But yeah, we're gonna talk about some terrain. We're gonna talk about terrain tonight. Let me check up on these, and then we'll jump in, guys. Yeah, Bo's got a great channel. Bo Paints. He's pretty cool. He's new to the whole hobby, or he's coming back to it, I believe. And he's diving in, man. He's like, fuck it, I want to play. I want to do this shit. And he's formed these opinions on, like, him coming into the hobby and, like, seeing how the hobby works. And he, shit. We didn't have this this social networking when I had it. You might have, like, the organized guys have like a fanzine, black and white. They might have a mailer that they send these things out to, but nothing like this. It was basically just your pals or like your local game shop, but nothing like this. And the social media hobby has its own dynamic, man. It's like it's weird. It's got its ups and it's got its downs and it's got its but it's cool to see Bo's insight and what he thinks about what he's coming to and what he's experiencing. It's pretty cool because we all have that. We're all kind of maneuvering through this hobby. There's so many influencers, whatever the fuck that is. There's so many just channels out there that have, they have their own opinions, or they're pushing a product, or they want your money, or they want your view, or whatever the fuck it is. But it's interesting. But he has some pretty cool insights on, his take on it all. But go check it out, Bo Paints. It's a cool channel. Let's see. Winter games. We have minis on the table for a month long. Hell yeah, you too. Got to. Yeah, 49. Okay. You won't live long enough to get that far. Yeah, dude. Shit, man. There's a lot going on in China in just the time frame that you got going on. Yeah. Fanzines and stuff. And man, I remember getting a couple of the historical ones back in the micro armor stuff. I cannot remember who did it, who wrote them, but yeah, they're great fun. All right, guys. Well, let me jump into it. Welcome. It's Brian from Weird World War II. And tonight, we're going to talk about terrain, okay? I'm not talking about model terrain, like buying models and put it on trees and shit. I'm talking about actual terrain that your forces fight over or in, okay? Now, in a lot of the games we have nowadays, and I like my games a little crunchy, right? Because I like a little bit of realism. And from my readings in straight historical, fact is that terrain and weather, shit like that, is almost as big a deciding factor in a combat as it is the belligerents fighting each other. So a perfect example, like Kursk, right? Or shit. Yeah, we'll say Kursk. The terrain was bad, and the fucking the Germans over engineering shit. The fucking everything was breaking down, right? So you have problems there. You've got the Stalingrad besieging. The winter the winter was so treacherous that they couldn't get anything there. Shit was breaking down. Guys were freezing. People were fucking, they'd rather run off and try to survive than fight. And then in the desert, same thing. It's like there's parts of the desert campaign that no one would venture into just because it's so bleak and desolate and hospitable, that only those dedicated, highly motivated, advanced, tactical sense units were in those zones, because the normal foot slogger Joe just couldn't survive just the terrain. They just the scenery, the temperature. So they were stuck on the coastal areas. So, and that's what we're talking about. We're going to talk about like instead of being, and I'm going to say that, instead of being pussies and make it overly simplified, saying you've got open terrain and rough terrain. Now, fuck that. There's like nuances to every kind of terrain that may be encountered. And I'm not just talking about earth terrain. You got 0G, low G, heavy G environments, underwater. Maybe you have like me and Mel were talking about different terrains earlier. It was like, and I was thinking maybe there's some like a psycho-conductive terrain, like these areas are polluted with like negativity or even happiness. Just think if your soldiers are moving to engage in combat with each other, and this weird alien terrain or something is giving off like positive vibes, right? You're all stoned or something and you're all happy. So how are you going to be motivated to fight each other, right? Because you're inundated with the surroundings that's causing you to change. And, and that's like way out there weird war. But like beach, like on the beaches, let's say the sand beaches of the Pacific, you've got ash sand, you got ash beaches, you got the sand beaches. They have their own fault. I would think that movement across these areas is going to be reduced. Tracked vehicles, would do better, I think, than wheeled vehicles in these areas. But still, the rutting, it's going to be slow going because of these certain kind of beaches. That's going to retard the movement of your forces onto this. And then, then you have, like we were talking about, there's certain environments like in the desert, those certain areas in the desert, which are like just filled with rocks all over the place. I forgot, I think it was the Modi, or I think that's what they call them. I can't remember what they're called, but rocks are just scattered throughout the whole desert. And just think of this, more than likely, wheeled vehicles might have problems transversing that kind of terrain because they're driving over these like relatively large rocks. Not saying that's impassable, but it reduce. Maybe you'd have to make some tests to see if they pop a tire or they grind out on a rock or some shit. Also, in an environment like that, let's say you have artillery coming inbound and it's exploding in these areas, and that extra rock is producing more shrapnel. So that could be a modifier to your HE, maybe either a lethality modifier, or maybe even like a template. If your system uses templates, like a larger template, because it's producing more shrapnel because of the terrain. But yeah. So I'm gonna go through a couple things that I've written down for certain trains that I've done. But I'm putting it to you guys is that don't play. I mean, I'd say don't play. I can't tell you what to fucking do. You're your own people, but try playing something different. Try playing a jungle terrain where there's like zero visibility. Movement is next to nil. Depending, it's not just this move. Like I'm watching Bolt Action, and they might have like a limitation in vision, but there's relatively little movement penalties. Even like the reduction of damage, you got to think, if you're shooting through jungles, I mean, a bullet's going to go through leaves and brush and shit, but it's also going to deflect. It's also going to be reduced because the more foliage it hits, or even if it starts to hit barks or thicker, foliage, that those weapons are going to be reduced in lethality or in range. So it makes the game. It might, if you just want to throw dice, I get it. A beer and pretzel game, you want something fast, something quick. And listen, a lot of the people, that's all you have time for, right? It's all you have time for. But if you're playing like skirmish games, and you just have a couple dudes over here, a couple of guys over here, man, make that terrain really just fucking sing. It's like you're in you're in a building, right? And you get shot at. Okay, that's fine. The building reduces the incoming shots, gives you protection. But what happens if you get hit with an HE from like a main gun or something, right? It's gonna splinter when that HE blows up against that wall. It's gonna shoot outward. It's gonna shoot into the building. Now it's not gonna be an entire template because I'm sure most of the blast will be outward, but it's also gonna shoot in. So you need to have what do you call it? Like cones of like shrapnel shooting into the building, or if you're throwing grenades into structures, it causes more lethality because you're in a confined space. It's shit like that. It's little things like that can really make a game flavorful and challenging and exciting. One of my biggest pet peeves is seeing fucking guys shooting Panzerfausts inside of buildings. Didn't fucking happen. Unless there was a big old door, to the outside right behind him, or a giant window, that backblast would probably concuss the damn gunner, and especially anybody in that structure. Bazookas, Panzer. Now, Piats were different. Piats were like a spring. So, and that's why one of the main benefits of the Piat was that it didn't produce any backblast. And, so that's a boon when you're in built-in structures, because you don't have to worry about the structure behind you. You can be in enclosed spaces and use these kind of weapons without being in fear of that backblast hitting you from the back. But yeah, so, that's, and again, that's heavy, crunchy, but that's reality, man. It's like you don't have fucking, and that's another thing is like troops like sitting right next to a main gun of a tank or or artillery. Didn't fucking happen, dude. Those fuckers are loud. And if you're like standing right next to a main gun, if at the very least it'll force you prone or make you, for a second. But it's little things like that reduce effectiveness. It causes issues and it makes a game more challenging. And I know you guys play these games for so long, and it becomes second nature, right? And you just play to the rules, it's kind of a stupid rule, but you do it anyway. Don't, man. Make it realistic and see how hard it really is to like fight in urban areas or built up areas, or Arctic areas. So like, let's talk about the Arctic real quick. Okay. I know I'm just bouncing all around, but I'm really excited. Let me look at the remarks here real quick, because there's a bunch of people talking. That's cool. You guys talk amongst yourselves. I'm just gonna check out what's good. Hey, Tiki, what's up, man? Good to see you, dude. Oh, I love crunchy stuff, man. I get the beer and pretzel, love and the format. A bunch of guys just spending a couple hours throwing dice and play. And I'm there too. Sometimes I don't want to get out the slide rulers and the fucking all that shit. But it's also a lot of fun when it's almost as hard to maneuver through the area because it's so fucked. And then you got to deal with some other guy shooting at you. That's a lot of fun. And it really makes your games like it brings a new life to them. And it doesn't take much to add these little bits and pieces to, like, again, we're talking about terrain. Just these little bits and pieces that make it more realistic, make you do more realistic actions and maneuvers and tactics, because that you're just not going to be able to climb up this, this seawall. You're going to have to be like, dudes are going to have to like stand on top of each other and boost each other up, or they're going to have to move around it or whatever the fuck. But you can do it. But it just might be it might take a second. It might take a round to climb these up. Maybe one guy gets up there, and then the next, as they climb up each other, or whatever it might be. But let me see what we got here. I got my side ruler, dude. Oh yeah, dude. Burn all day, freeze all night in the desert. I'm again, guys. I'm just gonna look at the responses here real quick. Oh yeah, recoilless rifles. Yeah. Oh, see, and that's another thing, guys. Use the weaponry realistically. Like, you know, like the Falsenjäger had those recoilless rifles, right? That they use excellently in the Italian campaign. They were in those fucking blown up monasteries and the blown up cities, and they were using these fucking, you know, what was it, 75 millimeter and 105 or millimeter fucking recoilless rifle, dude. No backblast, fucking artillery gun, wedged in all this shit, dude. That is brutal. And you know, that's another reason why let's get this equipment. Let's buy it physically, you know, and paint it up and shit, because I can use these actual weapons in this kind of terrain. You know, you're developing your army list realistically for a specific purpose environment. So, and also that makes you start to read, like, what did this, you know, like the Americans had a recoilless rifle, the M18. I think it was a 57 millimeter, I think, or it might have been I think it was a 37 millimeter. I think it was a 37. But yeah, dude, that's a 37 millimeter, you know, gun that you can have inside of a building and you know, shoot from. That's awesome. But yeah, hey Shadow, what's up, man? Plastic Bowl Hills, dude. I did it back in the days. My mom's Tupperware. You just flip that shit over and put a blanket on top. Booyah, Hills. Oh, that's cool. I haven't played Zona Lafa. I thought it was Zona Alpha. But yeah, it's like a cyberpunk thing. Oh, Game Masters. Yes. We're gonna do a show about just Game Masters. I think I may have done that one in the past, but man, guys, try to run a game with a Game Master or Battle. I call them Battle Masters. The BM. That's in my rules. It's the Battle Master, and everybody makes fun of it. It's the BM. But dude, it's great because those guys, if they're in tune to the rules and they want to make a fun game and throw little wrenches on both sides, you know, it's a lot of fun having a third party like running the game. It's also a good game to a good way to have like hidden advancement, like hidden movement, like double blind, and you only actually see units when they appear across from each other. That's pretty cool. The BM. All right. So let's like an example. Let's do like winter, like the snow. Okay. So first of all, snow, there's varying levels of snow. There's deep snow, there's packed snow, you know, and light snow. So light snow would be maybe a small reduction in movement, maybe infantry movement. Vehicles, like wheeled vehicles, if it's light snow, not too much because they're probably chained. And listen, chained wheels may be some sort of, like if you play with points, you know, chain tires might be extra point values, you know, to add to your vehicles to give them, you know, no reduction in movement for these environments. The tanks had those, what are they, the Gausers or the Grazers or whatever. Basically, what it was a track extension that they would fit on their tracks, so it'd give more surface, you know, to the track. So it would be able to, you know, separate that weight against the ground a little bit better. So they'd have more traction and more ability to move. So that might reduce that kind of reduction in movement. And then, so you have movement penalties in snow. Then, like when we come to, like weaponry. Oh, well, let's keep going the movement. So there's deep snow. So like if you guys have, I'm a Texan, so I haven't really done a lot of snow stuff. But you know, I did some research on these rules. Let me see if I can find. Let's see if I have my rules here. I wrote a bunch of shit down, but it's fucking disappeared. Of course, that's how it works here. Let me see. Snow. I'm on my blog, guys. Anyway, I'm just seeing if I did a snow. I know that there's some interesting upgrades to the Schwimmer wagon and the Kubel wagon. They can modify them. They can put these it's called the Dietz gripping wheel. And it's basically like it almost looks like a fucking like gear that they put on the tire that just basically makes it almost like a track on the, it's so fucking weird. But it's called the Reiger and Dietz gripping wheels, and you can put those on Schwimmer wagons and I think Kubel wagons. And they also had, you can do converting to where you can convert those vehicles into tracks. Like the back part of the wheel can have some sort of track contraption. It's fucking weird, but yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of these like cool bits of kit that are produced for terrain. So all of a sudden you have these, you know, this new kit that if you play with points, you can, you know, assign point values to these, you know, these upgrades to your vehicles or your troops or whatever to help them fight within this, this environment, or they get those penalties. Now with snow. So looking at an open field, right, of snow, it's just white, right? You don't know if it's fucking deep. You don't know if it's, you know, ruddy. You don't know if the ground's ruddy. You don't know if there's a fucking creek in there. You know, if it's like heavy, if it's heavy snow. So that's a danger too. So let's say you're infantry and let's say it's heavy snow, it's deep snow. Dude, your movement is for shit. I mean, if it's up to your waist, I mean, I don't even know. You're probably walking behind a vehicle that's plowing through it, right? So it's that reduction of movement and just tactical ability that puts you in certain situations or makes you deploy in a certain way or whatever it might be. But we'll keep going. So the snow, you don't know how deep it is until you're walking in it. So if you have troops walking in here, and then you know there's like a gully or something, they'll sink into it, right? I mean, it doesn't mean they're going to drown in the snow, but they're gone until they're fucking someone pulls them out or they climb out themselves. So again, it's a reduction of you know, effective weapon fire or movement or whatever it might be. But again, it's just makes sense and it's more exciting. So you got an open field of snow. You don't know the terrain. Now this might become where you come into like a little bit of role play. Maybe the local population are friendly. You know, they're assisting you. So maybe they can tell you, hey, there's a giant, this field was bombed this, you know, in the summer, and it's filled with fucking, you know, artillery craters. So you might not want to go down there because, you know, you could get stuck and they're deep and whatever. Or you got hostile environment, you know, hostile population. They'll say, yeah, it's clear. Just go ahead. Everything's fine. It's just a field. And, you know, it's like a trap. So you've got this field and then you got a road and then you got maybe, I don't know, like, you know, some plowed earth, like it's been cleared for whatever. So you're going to take your chance. The field is the best place to do the maneuver to get to where you need to go because it's, you know, whatever, it's advantageous, but you just don't know what it is. Then you got the road, it's clear, but you know, and you know, enemies probably zeroed in on it. They got enemies against it. They got guns on it. So what do? Or you go through this, you know, this cleared area. Maybe it's mined. So again, it makes the game harder and it makes the game more challenging instead of just engage or like go to point A and secure it. No, man, you getting there is a fucking challenge. Okay. Now we'll keep going with the snow. Like in my rules, like artillery or any kind of explosives in like deep snow is reduced because the shells are going deeper into the ground. And when they explode in the snow, it doesn't fizzle it out, but it reduces the explosion, right? So your templates might be smaller, right? Or they're less lethal if they're caught into it. And then you're forced prone into this deep snow. then it might take an action for everybody to get back up or whatever it might be, however you play. But think in those terms, like it doesn't take much. I mean, more than likely, you and your opponent is like, it's like, yeah, let's play a snow game. Okay, all right, let's make some special rules. Let's say everything's deep snow, right? And then like maybe you'll throw out. I have like little patches of felt, right? And I just throw it on the field all over it, right? And those are deep. Those are like deep snow markers. So if you go in there, you sink. If you're in a vehicle, you bog down into because it's like some sort of depression and you bled. So again, it's more treacherous, shit you have to maneuver through, and it just makes the game more challenging. But Schwimmer wagons are awesome. Yeah, I mean, you guys being, shit, HS, you're up in Alaska, dude. I'm sure there's fucking billion times of different kinds of snow and various stages of, thawing and icing up and shit. This is just a generic. You can get hardcore and all the nuances of ice and snow. And that's another thing. You can't. More than likely, if you're in a snow environment, like if it's been snowing, you're not going to have earthworks. It's going to get covered. And if there are earthworks, it's going to be have to like entrench or like constructed stuff. It's going to be like shit that they built earlier that's been deluged with snow and cleared. And guess what? That's just a free. We know where you're at because you've cleared these fucking trenches so you can see out of them. But snow's a lot of fun. I love playing it. So first of all, it looks cool. The white, if you're playing with whitewashed vehicles and white camo and all that, it just looks fucking cool on the battlefield. But yeah, and then on top of all the terrain and the movement and all that stuff, you've got the cold. The cold itself. Rolling around in snow, laying on the ground, shooting, with metal weapons and all that shit. That's bone numbing. And, maybe have some rules where, after so many turns, the troops are starting to get cold and that fatigues them. Maybe it reduces their ability to hit or movement or some shit. They're starting to get they're starting to freeze. They're starting to get cold. So, and vehicle crews are the same way. I mean, they're inside vehicles and all, but still, that's some cold shit. I mean, I remember I watched the documentary about an M10 tank commander in World War II, and he was saying those fuckers were so cold that they were just freezing in this open-topped metal box that was like a refrigerator, and that cold air would just circulate into their turret, and the walls would be just like frozen, and he would just freeze, and it was like hell. But you don't even think about that kind of shit, But yeah, I mean that's a factor. And then we can go. The totally opposite is the desert. Similar things. You've got different kinds of sands. You got silty sands. You got the baked sand that you can maneuver on and walk on decently and whatnot. You got the sand dunes. I mean, shit, dude. You topple off of that, you're rolling it. Tanks will just roll off that shit. So again, on your battlefield, you have reduced areas that you just cannot maneuver, or you gotta you gotta come up with these rules that keeps you from fucking there's penalties against it because it's hostile. These environments, this terrain is hostile to you, and you can get into the nuances like I was talking about. I wish I had my fucking notes, guys. I made a bunch of fucking notes about. Let me see if I got desert here. Let me. I don't know what happened. I had all this shit planned out, but my computer started wigging out, and I had to reboot it. Let me see if I can get something here. I have, and again, I'm looking on my I've got all sorts of rules and shits on the blog. It's weird, WWII.com. If you guys are interested in looking at all my crazy shit, it's all there, dude, on that blog. But yeah, I don't see my terrain notes. It's on there. I just can't find it right now. But like, okay, so we're talking about the desert, right? So in the desert, like the Germans and shit, most belligerents, they had special tires for their wheeled vehicles. They're like bigger and rounder, right? So it would give, it allow these vehicles to drive through these types of sands easier than a normal tire would with the tread. They look cool. They look like big old inner tube looking tires, like you inner tubes that you float down a river with. They look pretty cool looking. But yeah, I mean, I believe the Germans had them and the Brits had them. Did the Brits have them? I think the Brits had them. But yeah, and there's all this extra kit to help you, in these environments. Let's see what we got going on here. Ooh, night fighting in the jungle. Fuck yeah, dude. There's an interesting article I read during the Battle of, I believe it was Guadalcanal. Maybe it was Okinawa. Shit, I can't remember. It's late war. Anyway, it's when the Marines had and the Army had the M3 sniper scope. They said that in that system, that weapon system in that battle, produced the most small arms weapon deaths against the enemy because they could see them. They could just fucking see them. Just imagine, all you need to do is see the enemy in the dark and you can hit them. And you got these snipers, you got these IR scopes that let you see, and there they are. Ping, 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 ping. That's a big thing, man. It's just vision. The Germans were developing that stuff in the late 40s. And they used it in the Bulge, and I believe they used it in some of it on the Eastern Front in late war stuff. The vampire units, the Panthers, and the MP-44s with the IR systems on it. But dude, yeah, just we're talking terrain. We can also talk about night and dark. If you have that weaponry, just your ability to see the enemy, it's all you need. And then you could have like. You can do the muzzle flash kind of thing, like blind fire towards the enemy, whatever your rules are, reducing the hit because all you're doing is shooting at muzzle flashes. If you even have muzzle flashes, it's not like back in the day where like muskets is you see this big explosion. I mean, that's why they have like muzzle reducers. I mean, they're not super huge. There's like this giant blast when they're shooting, but I mean you can see muzzle flashes. And then you see tracers but I doubt small arms are going to have tracers. Your machine guns and stuff will have tracers. But I've heard of instances where they pulled tracer rounds out, so you could not see, and because they had that IR advantage. So why give the enemy your location by using your own tracers? Take those fucking tracers out and use your IR, and it's a hell of a lot harder to see. Now the kicker with IR, it's an active, it's active. So if the enemy has an IR scope, it's like looking at a flashlight. You're looking through your scope and you see an IR spotlight moving around, and that's what you shoot at. So, if both belligerents have the tech, it cancels it out because they see each other. They see each other's beams of IR light. So that's another thing people don't fucking think about. I mean, all I did was watch a video on infrared, how it fucking works, and the spotlight produces the light, and then you got your scope, picks up that light, and that allows you to target in that. It's basically an invisible light. So, but if the enemy has that same shit, they can see your flashlight. So they shoot on your flashlight. So it's a lot of fun if you get more deep into it. Pull away you've gamed it enough. You've played this game 100 times. It's the same army lists. It might be a little different because the mission is different or whatever. But man, really get into it and look at your troops. Look at these weapons. Look at their limitations. Look at, your soldiers' equipment. Look at the vehicles, the upgrades. And if you're in, these certain terrains, you know, what can live, what, you know, realistic. I'm standing in a fucking jungle and there's an enemy somewhere. How do I find him? How do I shoot him? You know, vision's going to be for shit. A big thing with jungle environments is, is the heat and the wet. You can have higher weapon malfunctions. Your vehicles can get, clogged up with fucking debris, detrack. There's all sorts of shit in jungles. As a third party, throw in a crocodile or two, shit, or a snake comes out of nowhere and bites someone in the ass, and they shoot the snake. You got to reduce the snake. You got to kill it. So you give up your position because you shoot at a dangerous snake, or your troops are cool enough to kill it, with a knife instead of, shooting their weapons. But yeah, so, the sand, there's special equipment for the sand too. Crews and infantry are fatigued because of the weather. You can only fight in certain times of weather or certain times of the day. And even then, even if you're fighting at the top of the day, have that fatigue element. If you got infantry that are not mounted, give them an automatic penalty because they're having to run onto the battlefield, and keep moving. And, they're fucking sweating their ass off. And that was just in this point, they had to get to the fucking table, unless they're entrenched. And then maybe the guys that are entrenched are a little bit, better off because, they've been in place. They've had, water and rations or whatever. But the guys attacking, they had to run there if they weren't being escorted or transported. Oh yeah, so Tiki was talking about the Japanese rifles. Just their small arms rounds were weaker, and in my game there's a reduction by 1 on the lethality of Japanese rifle and pistol rounds. But yeah, there's a lot. I believe the Germans and a lot of the belligerents had flashless powder. So when they shot, it didn't produce a muzzle flash. And, I think that I can't remember if that was standard for most weapons, but I'm not sure. It might just be certain belligerents and it was only for a while because of the certain processing or I don't fucking remember. I read it, but yeah. Thunderstorms. Oh yeah. So we play, terrain also means environment. That's, we've played games where it's at night and there's a thunderstorm. We would roll every turn or every activation or wherever you guys play to see if there's a lightning flash, and that would light up the table. Maybe we use vision. We do sighting checks. So what we do in my game, how it works is anything outside of your command range, you need to make a dedicated action to do a sight. But anything within your command range is a free sighting check. So everybody kind of, you get the furthest out of the units that you're going to roll for, and you roll a morale check basically to see what you get. And then you would see if there's anything in that range. And then if there's anything outside that range, you make dedicated, guy would pull out binoculars and do a dedicated action to look around in a certain area or whatever. But that would be his action. But yeah, so if there are, thunder or lightning flashes, you'd have that, maybe one turn, you'd have light, and everybody blows the shit out of each other or activates or do whatever. And then it's back to the darkness. And then from there, you can, if you're playing double blind or whatever, that's a challenging. I think the most fun I've ever played was a double blind game, guys. And it's there's the terrain is out there, the table is set, but there's no fucking miniatures or there's no armies on the table, and there's usually a third party because it's hard to do with 2 people. Because it's not hard, but some people think it's hard. But the third party guy basically just says, okay, move your unit. Okay, move your unit. Okay, so this unit needs to do a sight check. Okay, this unit sees something over here. and then they engage, they see each other, whatever. So that kind of shit. But man, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. But it is crunchy, and it takes a bit of coordination. But man, it's so much fun because you don't know where fucking anything's at. You get the gist of the terrain, and you're moving around. And so let's keep talking about night. No one's going to be running in the night. There's not going to be any fast move unless you're like on a fucking road. And even then, dude, I'm sure it's going to be reduced. No one's going to be sprinting down a road they cannot see, right? Because I don't know if running in an open field in the broad daylight is, you don't run full force because it's uneven ground. You don't know if there's like, holes in the ground or divots or whatever. So you don't have break at angles. So you're not going to be running full force. Just imagine that in the nighttime. I mean, I've been in a fucking forest in the mountains at night. It is pitch fucking darkness, and you're not going to be running through a forest. You're going to get smacked by a tree, or you're going to run off a cliff or some shit. So movement is totally reduced unless you got like like flashlights, and even then, you're exposing yourself to the enemy because they can see that shit from far away. And the same thing with jungle. I mean, even daylight jungle. If it's dense jungle, dude, it's just like, it is in your face, and you're having to chop through it. And you could hear. We have sensory checks. Anything that isn't, we have sound rules, and we have like sighting rules, and then there's anything else that's called a sensory check. It'd be like you're smelling, like you can smell the exhaust of something. Or you can hear the idling of a vehicle somewhere in this direction, that kind of shit. So like you can actually do maneuvering in complete concealment and hiding, and still try to pick up like the enemy through your other senses. It's a lot of fun. It seems a little role play, but it really works if you have a good system. And you can do this with any system. You just tweak it a little bit. Just make it your own, man. Fuck all these Q&As, these new additions, and all that shit. Fuck all that. Just, if you resonate with a game, resonate with it. And then just fucking convert it to how you want to play it. Don't play it like the bare minimums. Get in there. Crunch that bitch up and make it like awesome. Make it hard. You want to make it challenging, right? You want to make it. The challenge isn't about manipulating the fucking army lists and the point costs. That's a bunch of bullshit. The challenge is making it fucking realistic on the tabletop and using real world tactics and real world weaponry and its limitations and its and its advantages on the battlefield, and making a fun game out of it. Man, it's a blast. And terrain can really give you that edge, man. It's so much fun. Deep jungles, thick woods, even mountains, man. Mountain games are a lot of fun too. It's all infantry. It's all fucking infantry. Unless you got like helicopters, or there's not going to be any tanks unless the tanks are just shooting at you off table. But yeah, totally infantry. People falling off mountains. I have mountain rules. You gotta dig in before you do anything on a mountain, right? Because you got to make sure you're stable before you start shooting and throwing grenades or doing whatever the fuck you do. So again, movement's a limitation. You got to brace yourself. You got to if you get wounded, there's a possibility of you falling down. The mountain or the big hill, or out of the tree or whatever the fuck it is. But but terrain can really bring another level of gaming to your games if you just take a little time, think about it. And again, you can just modify however you want, but there's a lot of things you can do to your game to just spicing it up. It's a lot of fun. And then when you get into the weird war shit, holy shit. Like 0G, I got rules for 0G combat. You're flying, you got your gyrojet, weapons, and you're floating around, and you got to make sure that your weapon systems, when you shoot, there's some sort of like a force that pushes against it, so you're not flying backwards from your shots. You know, when you get hit, you know, the impact could, you know, push you fucking flying off. So there's a lot of man, and then underwater, you know, there's bounding lead. You know, basically everybody can fly in water, right? Because you're swimming. So you know, you've got that whole almost. You got a 3-dimensional, you know, combat, like infantry combat now, right? So you've got guys floating up here, and you know, guys are down here. You're shooting from below and above, and all that shit. It's a lot of fun, man. And then you know, there's aquatic critters that can come into play. You know, there can be currents. That's another big thing that people forget when they play underwater is currents. That shit, all of a sudden there's some sort of like current flow or undertow or some shit, and you're swimming in the wrong way, and then woo, you know, you get taken off somewhere. That's pretty sweet. But like weird war, you know, environments, that's where you can just shine, dude, because you know, I just touched on some sort of psycho, you know, like landscape that manipulates everyone's psyche on the battlefield. Maybe you know, you got to do morale checks or leadership checks or whatever the fuck it is to keep your troops on task to try to fight these external like powers, making them feel or act a certain way. You know, the classic siren songs, right? Maybe there's some sort of enemy in the background, you know, having some sort of sonic weapon that makes you, you know, eat your own bullet. You know, you got guys like, I can't stop myself, but you know, either the guy's got to like smack them out of it. I don't know. You go fucking crazy. And then terrain, you know, you can get into the weird, man. You're in a heavy jungle. You got giant Venus man traps, you know, coming out to get you. You've got poisonous, you know, clouds, toxic, you know, fumes. You know, maybe there's like, you know, maybe you're fighting in hell, some sort of hellscape. You know, there's lava. Like maybe there's a lava shower. Like, you know, maybe off table. You know, a lava pool, blumps, and then like, you know, you got raining down magma onto the battlefield. It peppers the entire table. You know, if it gets on your troops, it's a wound. You know, it wounds them in some way. If it gets on a vehicle, maybe the magma starts to burn through the hull, causing damage or, you know, penetrating it or whatever. It's not like you'll be able to wipe off magma. You know, if it's on you, you're fucked. It's gonna burn through. You might be able to get a knife and maybe flick it, possibly. But yeah, shit. It'd be like white phosphorus or something. You know, it's like it's gonna just burn until there's nothing to burn, or it's somehow off you. Or hell, maybe you come up with some sort of tech that, you know, some sort of negates the effect. Somehow it super freezes it or it cools it or some shit. I don't know. But again, that really comes into play, and you can just run with it. And you don't have to, you know, you don't necessarily have to make new weapons and new troop types or new vehicles. You can just come up with new terrain, new landscapes, new weathers, new, you know, air, certain kinds of air, toxicity, creatures that are, you know, that are cloud-like, or fuck, I don't know. You can go crazy. But terrain is a feature that is really reduced in a lot of gaming systems for ease of play. And again, it's in my opinion that the games of today are meant for fast game, easy gameplay. You know, it's easy to just pick up and play, get the rule book and start playing. And I seriously think one of the reasons why people buy the newest thing is because, I mean, I think most people buy the newest thing is because they're stuck in this, like, it's the new shiny thing. And that's not me. But I also think that some people just get bored. They, you know, let's say they're playing bolt action. They've played bolt action for fucking 5 years or whatever it is. And a new game system comes out and they're like, hey, there's this new system. Let's give it a try. Because You're fucking sick of playing bolt action. It's just, and listen, I'm not dogging on bolt action. Warlords game is fine, and it's a little oversimplified for me, but it's popular. I play it. I know how to play it. I've played it, dozens and dozens and dozens of time. I enjoyed playing it with the people I was with. I'm not bashing it, but it is a game system that it's simplified for ease of play. And I think that, and they give like variations. They give like they try to make it more, crunchy with the campaign books, to try to give a little special rules here and there to, make it more, exciting, something different. But why not have that in all the systems? Make that the general. If there's rules for rubble and Stalingrad and all these special rules for the structure, why can't that be the general rule for all the structures? Or whatever. I mean, it's just, make the game yours, man. Make it how you want it, and just modify it however the fuck you want. And terrain, I think, would really give a flavor that, again, you don't have to buy new shit. You don't have to create really heavy rules, modifications. A couple penalties here and there, bonuses here and there, maybe some kit, maybe some training and tactics. And if you play points, give point values to those things. And, that can give, it's like, do I want badass jungle fighter motherfuckers that have training in jungle fighting, that have special jungle fighting equipment, that'll give them bonuses or negate any kind of penalties that they're moving through jungles or whatever. Pop those extra points in there. Or, fuck it, these are green guys, we're just going to run with it and put those points to something else. Maybe instead of making them badass jungle fighters, maybe I'll just give them some IR. We're playing at night. We'll just give them some IR kits. Every fifth dude has an IR rig, and, it's like, hey, there's a Japanese squad, 50 meters to the left, and then they pull that 50 right there, and shit, that might be all it needs. You don't need all these elite badass motherfuckers when you just have that one piece of kit that's going to be beneficial to you at that moment. So, it's a good way to think about it. And again, guys, a lot of this shit, most armies have the same stuff. Now, when you get into like the higher, if you're playing straight historical, the super tech shit is going to be very, very rare, and only a few belligerents are going to have access to it. But if you're playing Weird War and playing however the fuck you want, most armies will have access to each other's tech, because you know how it is. Like, the enemy has a weapon and you develop some sort of anti-weapon against it. And if, like, if you're playing Weird War, your buddy says, hey man, I got these rules for a fucking, a hot dog shooting gun, and you're like, shit. Okay. And then, like, you play a game with it and it, like, gives all your guys the shits. Then you come up with the next game. Hey man, I got some Alka-Seltzer, and tablet, medic kits. So when you shoot your hot dogs on, I got my antacids or whatever the fuck. But you know what I mean? You have that counter to the new tech, and then they're going to try to out counter that. So that's another arms race that you can have on the Weird War side. If you're playing in certain environments, maybe, like if you're playing in toxic environments, all of a sudden the new tech is like you have NPC kits on your vehicles. So although they didn't have that back in World War II, as the atomic, battlefields were, in theory, they started like, okay, everything's going to be sealed to where, the outside air cannot get in. It's the crew compartments are going to be pressurized. God, I can't talk. So there you go. You got a new tech that would help you overcome that certain terrain or environment or whatever. And then, then all of a sudden you come up with a new tech. You got some sort of, like, maybe it's a compressed air, kind of like acid that you could spray onto these vehicles, and it eats through, like, rubber seals and whatever. So that reduces that. So, it's an arms race. So you guys can just go crazy on that. So it should be a lot of fun. But again, I've been rambling here. But terrain and weather and environments, you could have so much fun with it. Just, make these games yours. Don't be afraid to, try something different, just put the brakes on this tournament play, point-based games, and these generic, just like, token A and token B in section 3 has to be occupied for 2 fuck all that. Just, come up with some realistic shit and have a lot of fun and put a realistic game together and just see how challenging and how fun it really is trying to get through it. Just trying to get through, the fucking destroyed city. There's so many dangers in it. There's burning structures, unstable structures. What if you occupy a damaged building? Maybe there's a certain percentage, that you roll that it collapses, and your troops inside cause damage. And they don't just die or save. Those who don't get killed have to get dug out. So again, so guess what? You're not going into destroyed buildings anymore, are you? You're running down the roads. Or do you? Or do you take that chance to go through that cover to get a better advantage against the enemy? Is it worth the cover and the possibility of collapse or fire or damage or from just the structure? Or is it just say, fuck it, we're just gonna take the road to be safe? And guess what? There's 2 MG34s right there down the road. Just should have took that chance on the crumbled building. But I think terrain is too generalized. And I think if you guys just sat down for a second and thought about it and manipulate the rules that in a realistic sense that you can all agree to, you guys can have a really fun game. A lot of fun. Like vehicles. Vehicles drove through build structures. I mean, it happened. I mean, but then they stopped. A lot of them stopped doing it because guess what? You got a King Tiger. You can that small storied, one storied little hut. Russian Soviet hut. You can just drive through that. You're a fucking monster tank. Well, guess what? It has a basement, right? And then you got a King Tiger in the basement of fucking this house. It's too heavy. It just crushes through into the basement. So it's fucked. So it's not destroyed. It's just, it's just immobilized and it's out of the game. That'll teach you to go through a building. Or, you're going through a structure and it collapses on top of your tank or your vehicle, whatever it is. Or your walker, you got a big mechanical walker with these, servo claws and and you rip open a structure thinking it's going to be, the big cinematic cartoon entrance. You rip open the wall and you bust in. Yeah, you do. But it collapses the storehouse of fucking, artillery shells above you and it collapses on top of you or whatever. So, I mean, it can be as realistic as you want and it can just be a lot of fun. That variable, it really makes things fun. But okay, guys, so let me look at the comments here. I've been rambling for a while. I'll just catch up on some of these comments and then we'll call it because we're running into an hour here. Let's see here. But yeah, and again, if you guys have any cool takes or have access to a set of rules or modification. Oh, that was my lovely wife. Thank you, baby. I don't know if you guys saw that little gift from Mel, but yeah. So I'm just looking through here. Oh yeah, so HS is talking about Marie Calendar. Oh, those in-tray bulls. Yeah, dude. Those are sweet. Yeah, you can use those as like you can use that for shit. Oh, dude, I remember back in the day we would use the styrofoam inserts for TVs and VCRs or whatever the fuck. Use that stuff as buildings and stuff. Those were a blast. Oh, expanding foam, dude. I use many expanding foam for some of my alien environments. Let's see. They're talking about plastic bowls. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, the coolest rifle was 57. Yeah, I think that's right. I couldn't remember if it's 37 or 57. Dude, that's a 57 millimeter anti-tank shell on your shoulder. That's pretty brutal, dude. Oh, you guys doing? Oh, so Shadow and Sun are doing a painting stream tonight. So if you guys after this swing over to Shadow and Sun, check out them doing some painting. Yeah, so HS has got a whole example of different kinds of snows. Yeah, shit, fuck, I don't know any of that stuff. If you want hot weather, talk to me. Hot, sticky, moist. Shit, Texas has got. I think Texas has every kind of terrain except we have desert, we have forests, we have swamp land. Um, yeah, well, maybe not a rainforest. Yeah, maybe that's not it. Well, I don't know. The Gulf is like southeast Texas. That's like swampy, so that could be. I don't know. We have most of the environments in Texas here, except like Arctic. But I think the Arctic's considered desert because like the Antarctic, because like Arctic zones in it, it's just no precipitation, right? It's all just ice and snow. It's just there's no rain. I guess it's considered a desert. I don't know. Shut up, woman. And no, it's not. Precipitation is rain coming from the sky. No, I'm not saying it doesn't have. It's just like ice. It's all ice and shit. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Night fighting is a blast, dude. Adam's saying during the 32 Battle of Shanghai, some of the very heavy bombardments from the Japanese Navy warships achieved very little as very many shells failed to detonate when impacting to the soft, silty soil. See, there you go. There's a whole nother fucking aspect where, rounds just, are not detonating because of the soil or because of the environment. So soft, the terrain is so soft, it just doesn't detonate. See, there you go. Heavy mud. That's a whole nother fucking thing we didn't even talk about is mud. Holy shit. Oh, so I don't know, man. I pretty much, I had my game is based off the old Battleground World War II system, like heavily modified from that. And I take rules. Like if I get a lot of rules, and I like to read them just to see, if they have any cool takes on mechanics or whatever. And I just made my own set. I mean, it's challenging to find players because they don't know how to play, but it's really fulfilling when we play because it's just like it's how we want to play. So my suggestion would be, if there's a system that you like, pick up some of the rules, see what you think. Maybe they got like some campaign expansions or whatever. Those things usually have some sort of special rules in them, and just modify from there. Yeah, wind is another thing, man. We use smoke extensively in our gaming, and depending on the wind, I mean, smoke could most of the time smoke, if there's no wind, it'll just billow straight up, right? But if it's blowing, you've got like a smoke screen, natural smoke screen that it happens to move. So every turn, you make sure the wind is still going in what direction, and then all of a sudden the smoke can start drifting in different directions. So that's a lot of fun. Smoke is fun. And if you're using like artillery smoke, like for obscuring, that could like, oh, I'm gonna smoke this. You got it right on target, but guess what? The fucking wind's blowing, 8 inches a turn in the wrong direction, and that smoke is just whoosh, no good. Yeah, again, guys, I'm just looking through the. Yeah, like flash floods is another thing we played before, like in the deserts. Like, all of a sudden, we purposely, like I purposely put like a dried creek bed in the battlefield, and up up range there's some sort of flash flooding, and that fucking that creek starts to fill up all of a sudden, and if you got troops in there, you got to DD out of there, or they're gonna get washed away. Oh, dude, Twilight 2000, man, that was my game back in the day, brother. We played the hell out of that game. Twilight 2000 has some great stuff to look at. It's a good game. A lot of role-playing games have some great ideas on how to play things, and it's not too hard to convert that shit into a mechanic for a miniature war game. Yep, like the indigenous critters. I mean, hell, you can even have like malaria and certain kind of diseases starting to take your troops off board. All right, Adam. Thanks for swinging by, brother. Troubled waters, yeah, that's true. Oh man, I play with templates. If you don't play with templates, there's something wrong with you. I don't know, man. It just doesn't make sense. If you're using artillery, like high explosive artillery, and you're not having like deviated templates, like off target templates and stuff, I don't know what is going, like bolt action. Like if your mortar rounds don't hit, they just like they just didn't exist. Dude, that's fucking stupid. That's dumb. That is the worst rule in that fucking game. Is that like if you it's like you need a 3 to hit or whatever, and let's say you roll a 5, or whatever it is, I can't remember what it was. I think you need a 6 to hit, and then it works its way up, or some shit like that. That the round doesn't just vanish; it should deviate off of the intended target, and it represents them. That was a fucking spotting round, and they're bringing it closer to the target. But I don't know what the fuck that's about. 45 records, yeah. By Easy 8, that's right, man. Dude, man, back in me and my pal JC, we tried to contact Easy 8 when they shut. We were wanting to buy the rights to that too, and could not get a hold of them. I got a hold of a couple guys, and they just, no, we can't, dude. There's nothing we can do. I don't know what happened. Something weird happened. Like one of the guys, something happened, and they just closed shop. It was a shame, man. I think it was the first 28 millimeter World War II game I'd ever known. So I don't know what happened with Easy 8. Oh, really, Vor? Dude, we probably run into each other, HS, probably in the old Battleground forums and blogs, and like on Yahoo and all that shit. We probably run into each other. Didn't realize it. Vor was pretty cool. I like Vor. Someone was talking about Vor the other day on one of the channels. I can't remember, but yeah, Vor was a lot of fun. All right, guys. Well, it's running on an hour here. Again, this was just a generalization, kind of a motivational video to try to get you guys to think outside the box or think more into the box and like make things more realistic. Because if you do, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to be a mathematician kind of bullshit, but just some common sense on the environments that you're playing in. Put some, realistic, limitations and benefits to whatever it might be in your gaming, and you'll see that it could really be a whole new game to you. Okay. And if you guys have access to any kind of like rules or databases or rule modifications for the games that you love and whatever, for terrain and scenery and environments and weathers and darkness and gravities and weird environments, put them in the comments below, or on any of the Weird World War II outlets. Let all the other Weird War weirdos check it out, because we're a diverse group playing all sorts of different shit and making up a lot of our shit ourselves. And it's always good to get those other ideas from people that you don't know, that you wouldn't even thought of, and it brings a whole new dimension to your gaming. All right, guys, it was great talking to you, everybody. And don't forget, next Tuesday, June 13th, is Weird World War II Day. So if you can, do something Weird War. Show off your artwork, or your fiction, or your models, or your minis, or your rules, or your battle reports, or whatever it might be. Put it on one of the Weird War outlets. Put it on your own thing. If you got some sort of social media outlet, put it on there. Support Weird World War II, and on that day, June 13th, that's the day. Don't forget. Try to support us if you can, and put out the word. Let everybody know about it. Get people out of their comfort zones. Let them break weird and see what they think. All right, guys. Whatever you do, you keep it weird. See ya.